Alright, I'm going to cover duplicate content and I'm going to go over four things. First, I'll explain what it is and why it's important. Second, I'll explain how it happens. Third, I'll show you real-world examples of it. And fourth, I'll cover best practices for dealing with it. First, the explanation. Duplicate content is content that appears on the internet at more than one URL. Normally it refers to text, but it can refer to images and video as well. To provide the best search experience, search engines will rarely show multiple duplicate pieces of content, so they are forced to choose which version is the most likely to be the original or the best. And that can be a tough thing for a search engine to do. So let's talk about how it happens. For the most part, duplicate content is not the result of bad or malicious behavior. Let's talk about some common ways people can accidentally create duplicate content on their website. One example would be having a printer-only version of a web page. This is very common. For example, on Wikipedia, you have the standard page that has the article, and then you can click on the link that says Show Print Version, and you've got all the same content just on a different URL. Another way it happens is by having dynamic URLs, especially on search results, where you have the parameters in the URL. I'm going to bring up a web browser here and show you an example with the website apartments.com. Now I'm here on their homepage. I'm going to do a search for Chicago, Illinois, because that's where I live. Come on. And if you, let me move this just a little bit. If you look up in the URL, we've got apartments.com/search !query equals Chicago, Illinois. And they're showing the results for Chicago down here on the page. Now, I could have easily gotten the same results by using a query that was different than Chicago. Let's say, for example, I did a search for the zip code 60657, which again is where I live. And now the URL has changed. There's a lot more parameters up here, but it's possible that the content on the page, the actual listings down here, would not change. And you know, it's not as big a deal with this particular example, but you get the idea that, you know, if people are searching your site for different things, for example, I typed in Chicago. What if I had just Chicago instead of Chicago, Illinois? Or what if I had a typo where I typed in CHIGO? You can rapidly understand how with putting search parameters in your URL, you could wind up having two different URLs that show the exact same content. All right, and then the last example of non-malicious behavior would be linking to the www and non-www version of a site. So let's say you have a link, you have a bunch of links pointing to your site. Sometimes they go to http://www.example.com. Sometimes they go to this one. Sometimes they go to this one. You might even have many other examples where your homepage, the exact same content, is being linked to with different URLs. Now the problem is this is going to take all your link juice you're getting from your inbound links and basically split it between these three pages. So when the inbound link juice is being split between three pages, it's a lot harder for your homepage to rank well for the keywords you want it to rank well for. Another example would be of an actual malicious intended duplicate content, and this is what really gets people upset. So here I've got a page on Mahalo.com where it's about how to play baseball. And here we've got some fly-by-night website called baseball.com, and they've got an article called How to Play Baseball. So I'm going to use a tool here. This is a little free tool that lets you check out how much duplicate content there is between two pages. So I pasted the URL for the original article on Mahalo.com, and then I've entered the second URL for this fly-by-night website. I'm going to ask the tool to compare them. I'll just take a second here. and the tool is going to come back with an answer about how much of the content on the fly-by-night website is duplicate. And what it's telling us is that, let me change that. On the original Mahalo.com is 53% similar to the BaseballHow.com fly-by-night website. And basically that happened because this website just copied and pasted many paragraphs from the original Mahalo article and is now hosting them at their site. So that's the example where people get really concerned about is, you wouldn't want this baseballhow.com to start outranking Mahalo, the original creator, for the keyword how to play baseball, just because they copied it. So that's one of the major concerns around duplicate content. So let's talk about best practices, and I'll bring up my PowerPoint here. So a lot of these best practices deal with how to address the non-malicious accidental duplicate content, and then we'll get into how to deal with somebody just trying to take your content and outrank you for it. One of the easiest ways to make sure that Google doesn't see you as having duplicate content is to use a little piece of code called a rel canonical tag, and this is something that Google developed back in 2009. I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like in the code of a website. Basically, the idea is, let's say you have the same piece of content on 2 or more pages. You can put a tag called a canonical tag on the duplicate pages and tell them that tell the search engines where the primary source is. So let's say, for example, you have a normal version of a web page and a printer-friendly version of the web page, and you want the normal web page to rank well, and you want the printer optimized version to not rank at all, and you want to tell the search engines, okay, just ignore this printer-only page and focus all of the link juice and attention on the web page. So it's something that goes in between the header tags, and it's just link rel equals canonical, and then you point to the URL where the original content is hosted. So for example, in our printer-only scenario, you would put this canonical tag on the printer-only version of the content, and you would put in the URL of the just normal web page. Other things you can do involve Google Webmaster Tools, which is a free tool provided by Google to help webmasters understand what's going on with their site and how it interacts with Google. When you're dealing with that issue I had in the previous slide of the difference between linking to the www version of the site down here and linking to the HTTP www version, one thing you can do is you can go into Google Webmaster Tools and tell them, hey, only think of my site as the www version, or only look at my site as if it was always the HTTP version. And basically, you're telling Google how you want your URL to be displayed in search results and how you want them to interpret inbound links to your page. Another thing you can do in Google Webmaster Tools is you can tell them to ignore parameters. So if we go back to the apartments.com example, let me bring that up. Apartments.com could go into Webmaster Tools and say, all right, anytime you see this question mark query, there are going to be some parameters. Sometimes it's going to be a city, sometimes it's going to be a state, sometimes it's going to be something else. And they can say, always ignore the state parameter, or always ignore the city parameter, or whatever parameter. Just focus on the rest of the URL, which in this case, this isn't a great example, but you could basically say, hey, just focus on this beginning stuff over here. Don't worry about all these parameters. And that's going to prevent Google from looking at your site as if it has a ton of duplicate content on it. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the ways you would deal with somebody who's just blatantly ripping off your content and trying to outrank you for it. There's a free tool at copyscape.com where you can find people who are ripping off your content. I'm going to bring that up here. It basically looks kind of like a search engine. You can type in, I'm going to go with the Wikipedia page. You can type in or just copy and paste in your URL and click go, and then it's going to search the rest of the web and look for other pages that are copying large portions. I guess we've done too much Wikipedia, so let's go with the Mahalo. Let's see. This is actually how I found the Fly By Night website that was ripping off Mahalo. So it'll go ahead and it'll start scanning, and then I'll show you a bunch of articles. For example, the number one was that baseballhow.com, the one I showed you about. But there are a lot of other web pages that are just blatantly copying and pasting the Mahalo article. So if Mahalo wanted to go after those people, this is how you would identify them, and it's a great free tool. Next, I would suggest you just follow basic SEO best practices. If you're dealing with a website that is just copying other people's content and ripping it off, it's tough for them to build a brand and get inbound links and have any other good SEO attributes. If you're doing basic things like trying to get a bunch of inbound links to your website, using appropriate title tags and H1 tags on your site that are relevant to the keywords you're going after, you're going to be pretty much just fine, because you're actually producing real content, and people are much more likely to link to a website that's actually producing original content rather than one that's just scraping and pasting copied content onto their website. And the last thing you can do is you can file a DMCA complaint to get them kicked out of Google's search results. You can just Google DMCA Google, and you'll find the web page on Google where you can file a formal complaint. DMCA, I believe, stands for Digital Millennium Copyrights Act. It was passed, I think, in the early 2000s, and basically said, all right, the World Wide Web is no longer going to be a Wild West for copyright infringement. We're going to put some laws in place that make it illegal. And if you just file a complaint against people who are copying your content, Google will kick them out of these search results.